All right, boys and gals, it's about that time we take a look in the past and see our predictions on Mythic Plus for all DPS. That was back in April, somewhere at the beginning of April.
When we did the prediction,
it's been quite a long time, and now we have like an up-to-date rankings to compare them with.
Oh, for
and
sure.
as always, it's fun to look at these, right? This is like
because I have a feeling that we were probably wrong on a lot of them, but hey, this is the whole point of the thing, right?
Yeah, this is pretty much it. Now, when we made these predictions back then, we had like limited data and limited testing on the PTR, a couple of logs and stuff. Obviously, a lot of these specs have changed dramatically.
Buffs, nerfs, tier set adjustments for sure.
Yeah, there was a lot going into this, but it's still very interesting to see. And interesting is also Diablo 4. If you're into that, make sure to check out our new channel covering Diablo 4. youtube.com/@Diablo4ever. That's Diablo, the number 4 and ever.
Oh yeah, for sure. Link is down below.
Yeah, you'll see there like class guides, leveling guides, you know, Diablo news, all that type of Diablo 4 goodness. If you're into that, it will help us tremendously. Just go check it out, hit a subscribe, like, leave a comment, all of that. And that being out of the way, let's start it off with Frost Decay, as always, like we did with the raid. Okay, so our prediction was within a B tier. Well, it was generous, but it isn't too far from the truth.
You know what's funny? Because I think we did a tier list for all the Marcelian Plus about 3 weeks ago, and that's probably where Frost Decay was at the time.
At the time, yeah, but it has risen.
Now it's actually doing a lot better, and I think we're seeing more and more Frost Decays climb the rankings. Even Biceps is doing M Plus with his Frost Decay, and you know Frost is doing well if that's happening.
Yeah.
So it's doing surprisingly way better than Unholy. So I guess it's time for Frost again.
Yeah. It's currently now it's in A tier, so we kind of like we were kind of close to it, but hey, if Biceps plays a lot more Frost on his streams and his keys,
you gotta know
it's good. It definitely has risen, and we're happy for the Frost Decays, but we're not calling this a mistake. Okay, we were close. This was a close call. All right, next up would be Unholy Decay. Now let's check out Unholy Decay. Come on, baby. Okay, we predicted this in
we're so good at
tier.
this. It's like we're doing this for a living, man. God damn.
But the argument was always at the time, because, you know, the old puzzle box, the shenanigans.
It was because it was anchored into a lot of gear that was Season 1 specific, and even though after a puzzle box nerf...
It's a puzzle
box.
The
puzzle box was nerfed, but Unholy was buffed in exchange. But even with that, it was still not enough. It's probably just underlying issues with how the tier set works for Unholy rather, and how reliant it is on mastery, and not really big mastery trinkets this season that much.
Yeah, but the truth is, we called it. It's exactly how it looks in the present day. So more wins for Marcelian Online predictions. Thank you very much. All right, let's check out Havoc Demon Hunter.
With Havoc. Oh damn!
Havoc Demon Hunter. We predicted it's gonna be A tier.
Correctly.
What is this magic? We told you so. This is currently Havoc is very good, pumping up. I think it's like on 3.3 score.
It's doing high. It's not quite an S tier. People have, I mean, the predictions that went into Havoc were based on what people had tested and what the general feedback and theory crafted numbers were about the tier set, which didn't really make people very happy in terms of its overall performance. However, A tier is still pretty good compared to what it's doing in raids.
Yeah, and we were right. We were right. So we have 2 of them like spot on, okay, and 1 close call. Let's see the next one.
See the chicken.
Balance Druid. Oh my god, man. So, okay, we messed it up.
To be fair, Balance right now is an S tier spec. To be fair, though, it has received a lot of buffs since our initial predictions, because similar to Unholy Decay, Balance Druid was really tied to the tier set in Season 1, which is probably one of the best tier sets in terms of numbers added to the spec. But since then, the current tier set has been buffed. The spec has received about 2, I think, mini reworks from Season 1 to Season 2. I don't know how much we had knowledge of it at the predictions time, but there were at least 2 mini reworks for Balance Druid, which actually is something that we need for more specs. So we were wrong, but...
We were wrong.
In a good way, let's say.
Yeah, we were wrong, but yeah, the numbers got like bumped up significantly since then. And yeah, as Flame mentioned, with all of the mini reworks, our predictions back then were without any of these in place or of us knowing about it. So take it as you will, but we'll call it. We were wrong on Boomkin. Let's just give it how it is. Okay, Feral Druid. Feral Jewelry predicted it to be in B tier. Spot on once again, baby. Let's go.
Perfection. No mistakes made whatsoever. Feral is in a weird state overall in the meta. It's doing surprisingly well for Mythic Plus the way we've been able to look at it. It's not bad. I mean, it's up there doing the 25s and 26s with everybody. But obviously, you know,
yeah, not everybody's happy with the tier set, and it's a little bit of a sad story that okay, Feral can do very well, especially in fortified weeks because it has that AOE prowess. But in terms
feels
of
like
tyrannical,
it's worse a single target than last
it
season.
is worse. Yeah, it is worse like all across the board. But hey, B tier is still respectable, and we called it spot on.
For sure.
All right, Devastation Evoker. Did we know about the boss that were coming to it?
I think we might have known that the reward for Devastation has been announced while we were in season. And
what do you know? What do you know?
Yeah, we got it.
Another spot on, baby. Devastation Evoker. Well, this is the thing, right? As opposed to Boomkin, we already knew they were working on. It wasn't really a rework, maybe slight rework, but it definitely addressed a lot of the concerns for Devastation, specifically like for the squishiness, for the single target damage. AoE was pretty insane all the time, but still is.
To be fair, with the Devastation wasn't really attached to the season 1 tier set that much, and the season 2 actually showed a lot of promise, hence why it kind of retained its place in the meta around close to S tier.
But hey, toot our own horn here, I think, because I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot of mishaps, but so far lots of spot-ons. We have BM Hunter.
Can I call it? Was BM? Yes!
S tier, another spot-on? What is this?
Also, BM Hunter is also S tier right now, although we might have... A tier, right. Although we might have called it for different reasons, the numbers that BM was doing at the time were really
ridiculous.
Good.
Yeah, they were very good.
But I think it just scales a little bit better than a lot of other specs, period.
Yeah, I think we had a discussion back then on thinking about maybe putting it into S tier or becoming an S tier spec. Didn't really happen, but as we mentioned in multiple tier lists for like when we're addressing BM and Mythic Plus, it's just a solid spec all around. Cannot really go wrong with it. So another spot on A tier in both our prediction and currently in the rankings. Now, Hunter. Okay, did we? Yeah, we fucked this one up.
We messed this
up. This was predicted as an A tier, but currently it's looking at a B tier. I mean,
it's B, but it is a pretty low B compared to where we kind of expected it to be. Marksmanship seems to have lost some of its identity, where in last season it had like crazy giga AoE bursts. It still has good AoE bursts, not as much as compared to other specs. It did receive a lot of single target though, which you would think would prop it up in Tyrannical Wicks, and it's still doing pretty well, but I think overall, from what we've seen with the logs and everybody playing the spec, it's just not doing enough damage to be competitive, and it doesn't bring anything new to a party that BM wouldn't already bring.
Yeah, and also like currently like the number of logs you see from Marksman compared to BM and Survival, we'll get to that. There's a big difference there as well.
Sure.
And speaking of the devil, we'll take DL. Okay, let's take DL for Marksman. We were wrong about Marksman, but let's see Survival Hunter.
No, this is probably all on me because I'm very biased about Survival. To be fair, Survival also received a couple of buffs, if I'm not mistaken, ever since then. However, from what we've seen, we didn't have a lot of data on Survival because, unfortunately, in Season 1, Survival was very unpopular. People were not actually playing it, so we didn't really know about how it's going to perform in Season 2. I know that Vesprol, who's also doing a lot of Survival coverage, has been, wrecking the meters in the PTR testing, but I think that happened a little bit after we did the predictions, so it was a little bit too late to change. I kind of, took the bullet on this one and knew that was probably going to be way better than we predicted.
Definitely a big L. Okay, Survival is definitely an A tier spec right now in Mythic Plus. We predicted it to be D tier. I'm sorry, we made a mistake. Flame made a mistake.
Yeah, I don't mind. It's fine.
By proxy, I did a mistake as well. So we'll take it to the chin. Yes, we were wrong and you guys were right. Next up, Arcane Mage. Predicted this to be a C tier spec. Kind of close to how it's looking right now.
Well, to give Arcane's its credit, it is top of the B tier right now, close to being an A tier spec. It's doing actually way better than what we expected it to do. And, it's probably going to change even more after the rework, because everybody and their mom are talking about the rework. Arcane is not that bad. I'm guessing just, I don't know if it changed too much in Season 1 in terms of what it's actually doing in the dungeon, but likely people just got used to it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we always made the argument because we were also influenced by the fact that we had a different dungeon pool then and comparing it to how it was now. Like, it was always the problem with Arcane that, okay, if you have to move, you cannot be a turret all the time because you miss out and you die.
Yeah, as a caster main as well this season, I feel like I have a lot less need to move a lot. So hard casting specs do a little bit better this time around.
It's a lot of movement still, but not as much as the previous dungeon pull. So probably this is one of the factors why Arcane is there. But hey, we were close-ish, okay? Sure. All right, Fire Mage prediction. All right, this was a doozy. Yeah, see that's the thing. We didn't really expect Fire Mage to do that much, but this was based on what we've seen at the time. With the numbers, we never took into account the fact that Fire Mages are one of those specs that once they get geared, they really creep up.
Really well.
We didn't talk about that, and I'm pretty like I'm a bit salty because we knew that Fire Mage always gets creeping on top. But hey, based on the performance on the first season we've seen from Fire, and looking at what Tuesday they would receive and how the dungeon pool was looking, it was like, man, maybe a B tier would be appropriate, but no, Fire Mage is S tier.
It's good. It's good.
Clearing like 27s, 28s, like 3.4k score. So this one is a mess up. We'll take it to the chin. Man, I miss already having so many spot ons. What's happening? Okay, let's see Frost Mage. Frost Mage.
I think we ranked it. Oh, B-tier. Close. We were kind of off without Frost Mage too. Frost Mage also has received a lot of power from the current gear set, and it's the what I've come to realize is that Frost Mage is the only spec that can go over 100% haste, which is ridiculous and definitely helps it, you know, do a lot better than we initially predicted it.
Yeah, I mean, we predicted it like kind of like middle of the pack, and currently now it's somewhere at the end of A tier, like in between B and A tier. So we were not that far off. Obviously, it's amazing. Like whenever you see the middle grounds, like in the B tier zone, these are the specs that are doing like 3k score to 3.2k score and like 25s, 26s and all of that. So I guess we weren't too far off for Frost Mage, but still not spot on.
Yeah.
Okay, Windwalker Monk. Curious about this one. This
we got it. Oh, we're back. We're getting back.
Well, this was an easy one to predict, as Windwalker Monks were like very, very good in last season as well. They're very, very good in this season. We predicted it to be A tier. There are A tier currently by the current rankings and data. We all know that they how many ever buffs they get to their single target, they're still not gonna dominate in Tyrannical Wicks. I don't know what the hell they need.
Their kit is just really good for dungeons, and unless that they're just messing up completely the design of it, spinning crane kick is always going to be really good. You have the touch of death, all of that nonsense AoE, and you just have a solid DPS throughput, solid toolkit. Brewmaster is not particularly popular, neither is Mistweaver in terms of the higher echelon, so if you're gonna need a monk, you're probably gonna take your Windwalker.
For sure. Now, let's see the Red Paladin prediction. I wonder where we predicted this one to be. Spot on, baby.
Got him.
Yeah, because, okay, this was the spec that I made and tested on the PTR and did dungeons and stuff and analyzed through the teeth and through the bones, and I knew Red Paladins were going to have an amazing kit for Mythic Plus because they could do single target and AoE and survive a lot longer.
It's kind of like the old Windwalker. It's just good all around. It doesn't top meters 100% of the time on 100% of the fights, but it's just consistently really, really good.
Yes, and very useful for the team. So we predicted it to be S tier with all biases aside, because we remember when we predicted Reds to be shit and they turned out shit and people thought we were Red Paladin haters for some reason.
We know.
But it is S tier currently. So we will take the win as we should, as we take all the L's as well. Now let's look at Shadow Priest.
Gotta be
okay, but this is were the changes up and running back then?
No, so okay, Shadow was always gonna be very hard to predict considering that it was in the middle of a rework, and as we were doing the research for all of the predictions, it was still undergoing rework, and Shadow is still getting changes to its damage profile and things like that. So, I mean, this is with a grain of salt. Shadow did change, and it's still a really good. Probably one of the main reasons is that Shadow's AoE just scales incredibly, as you probably have seen from the latest AoE nerfs, and not to mention the power of power infusion. It's just way too good to not have a Shadow Priest in your top team. So even if the damage would be way lower, you'd probably still want a Shadow Priest in your S tier teams because it's just bumping up the Fire Mage, is bumping up the Reds, the enhancements, the Boomkins, all of those people really, really love PI.
Not so much the Reds, but I can definitely see them pumping up the Boomkins and the Fire Mages for
KFCs.
Sure. All right, so we predicted it to be A tier, but it's currently kind of like the best spec all around, like top of the S tier.
Consistently.
So, okay, I wouldn't call it 100% an L because there was a lot of changes to it, but I think we were close on it.
It's an L.
Okay, let's see Assassination Rogue. This was predicted to be
This was not hard to predict, unfortunately.
Yeah, man.
Man, even together with Survival, it's, well, not even as Survival is getting the least amount of love and attention to it. I don't know if it's just really difficult to kind of tune the new identity of Assassination with the game, or maybe it's just not a high priority considering how good Outlaw and Sub are.
Yeah,
but it's a shame.
It was bound to happen. We didn't really we were talking about maybe putting it into D tier. However, it's still a rogue spec. It still brings that, you know, rogue goodness for the team. But yeah, it's kit. It's not that the most friendly you will ever have to play in Mythic Plus, and this is like how we correctly predicted it to be a C tier. It's currently in C tier as well with the current rankings. Take the W, but kind of sad for Assassination, hoping for some
bittersweet W.
Okay, Outlaw Rogue. We have predicted this to be in A tier, and it is in A tier. In fact, well, again, not too complicated to predict this because Outlaw was kind of like the dominating force in Season 1 together with Sub. Well, Sub creeped up later on, and you didn't really see too many changes for Outlaw that would affect its performance in a negative way. We were expecting it to be at least decent enough to maintain.
Still consistent, yeah, for sure. I'm curious to know if we ranked Sub higher than Outlaw, because
I don't think so.
I'm thinking the same thing.
I'm very afraid.
The logs that we had access to early on with Sub didn't really do great, and I think
there was another thing. The tier set, if I'm not mistaken, on the PTR was either bugged or not working correctly.
Oh.
And the damage we've seen on the logs then, it was pretty shit. But okay, Outlaw we predicted correctly.
Sure.
Now let's take a look at Sub, and we'll dive even more into that because I know. Okay, it was predicted into A tier.
It's A tier, but I mean it's not the same as S tier what it is now.
No. But this is the thing, right? So the sub rogues at the time when we were testing it, and this was happening in both raids and Mythic Plus, especially for me because I was coming off playing Sub and Outlaw from Season 1. Its damage was pretty shit. The reason why we placed it into A tier and predicted to be A tier and not S tier is because, okay, one, the damage was shit, but two, we knew there was a lot of bugs with it, and we kind of expected for some tunings and some changes and some fixes that would increase its performance. Obviously now it's an S tier spec, but we have to put that caveat there because we would have placed it in S tier 100%. It was S tier last season, so I'm not taking this L because it's close and there's a lot of caveats to that.
I have a feeling we might have an L on Elemental. I don't think we
Elemental Shaman.
How good Elemental could be. Oh no, damn!
A tier. I
don't give us enough credit, man.
Have some faith in us, man. What the hell?
Elemental is actually doing really well. It's weird because it's not super obvious the way, you know, Shadow Priest and Boomkins would be. They're just really solid across the board. You have multiple builds to play and, you know, kind of get the damage out for multiple levels of keys, where other specs would probably suffer early on into the keys. Elemental is just a solid spec. I think it's just maybe one of the most underrated specs because nobody talks about Elemental. Everybody and their mom are about enhancement left and right.
We'll see why. We'll see. We will definitely see why.
Speaking of the devil,
I think our predictions were pretty much correct, if I'm not mistaken. Well, we didn't predict it into S tier as it currently is.
S tier, like who even counts anymore?
But it was the A tier. Well, again, another asterisk or side note here. Its initial tier set was kind of shit, and this prediction was
before the buff.
Yes, this was prior to the changing of its tier set bonus, and that really bumped it up. And we were kind of sad after we did the predictions because the changes to the tier set happened a couple of days after this went live, right? It was still doing good. Like on the testing, it was doing really good damage on the PTR. Remember, we were playing with Stanky doing dungeons and stuff, and he was like popping off with the old tier set all over the place.
Yeah, it was really weird, and I was like, man, we didn't see enhancement being this
good. So that was the thing. But once they changed the tier set, it was definitely guaranteed to be an S tier spec, and it is now an S tier spec. I wouldn't say we were that far off, judging by what we had at the time. But hey, we predicted it to be A tier. It's an S tier spec now. Take of that what you will. Affliction Warlock. Let's see. What the hell? Yeah, I'm out. No, fuck it. I'm out. No,
okay, I'm trying to go back in the mindset of past Marcelian&Flame and figure out exactly why.
What the hell is this?
Why Affliction is?
What did we do here?
I remember why we ranked it so high. Affliction was okay, but obviously it just didn't scale that way. And listen, who knows? If we would have done this prediction in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we might actually be right, because Affliction is getting a bunch of stuff on its kit in 10.1.5. But right now, This is probably the fattest L.
The biggest L, yeah. That's what
yeah.
the biggest L of our mistake of
Actually,
our
it's the
prediction.
same as survival, right? Because we kind of
kind of flipped it around. I mean, okay, we're gonna take it. We're big boys. You were right. We were wrong. That's the end of the story.
All right, Demonology.
Demonology Warlock. Let's see. Almost there. Almost there.
Close.
S tier. I remember why we placed this into S tier, because everybody and their mom was like giga excited for the tier set bonus, and we said,
the tier set was really strong.
Yeah, I mean, it was ranking up high in the first couple of weeks when they did give their tier set bonus, but after that, a lot of other specs kind of became more and more dominant and overtook it. We predicted it to be S tier. It's currently sitting in around the middle of the pack, B tier.
A fat B it got outshone by destruction. It just doesn't scale that well with dungeon content, and the way that it's doing a lot of damage is through power infusion, and that's a very niche way to do damage, and it works better in raids than it does in dungeons. So what are you gonna do? Yeah,
but it's an L. We'll take it. We were wrong about this one. Okay. Destruction Warlock. We placed this in
B tier. A little bit off. Destruction is doing a little bit better, to be fair. A lot of people were seeing the tier set in a very negative way, mostly because nobody really likes Channel Demon Fire. Well, not because Channel Demon Fire is annoying to press. It is slightly annoying to press, but it does interrupt the flow of what the destruction is essentially doing. Doing in a big pack where you're just spamming your rains of fire, and it's probably a similar discussion to Arcane, where the dungeon pool seems to be a little bit more favorable towards hardcasting specs and to specs that, you know, require specific pools, specific rotations and stuff like that. So I guess it's good to see destruction in A tier, but
okay, we weren't totally off, but it's still not like correctly predicted. Let's see Arms Warrior next. We place this into B tier.
Slightly off as well.
Well, this is the thing. If you look at currently now, if you look at like Warcraft logs, and then you compare it to like Subcreation, and then you compare it to that GG, you're gonna see a ping pong between A and B tier. So some of them like rank it into B tier.
There are a couple like 5 arms players that are knocking it out of the park when it comes to the dungeons that they're pushing, and they're kind of skewing the overall performance of all arms players, because probably like the majority of arms warriors that are pushing keys are around B tier-ish, but there's like the select few people that are really wrecking the meters, and it's kind of hard not to take that into account when you take the potential of a specs to perform properly in the dungeon into consideration when you're ranking this. So I feel like it's kind of like not really a full L. It's very close.
It's not.
And
again, if you check out like the different sources of data, you're gonna see some of them, and even in the current rankings, is somewhere at the end tail of the A tier. So it might as well be a B tier spec as well. But other than that, I think it's a close call. Now we have one last spec to check out prediction-wise, and that is the Fury Warrior.
Fury Warrior.
We put this into A tier, but once again, this is a spec that currently is like hanging into the S tier over there. Is like barely made the S tier.
Right at the cusp of falling down into A tier, close to what we kind of predicted it. Although I don't know if when we predicted it, we thought about it being bottom A tier, because it's clearly not bottom A tier.
No,
but it is A tier-ish, since there's a lot of, if you really look at it, there's a lot of melees and a lot of range. Into S tier, you have 3 range, you have 4 melees, right? You cannot push the same level of keys with 7 DPS in your spec, so you know one of them is probably going to be a little bit lower. That's usually Fury. But seeing as how Fury kind of rose in the last couple of weeks, it's probably deserving of its S tier right now, but it's, you know, at the cusp.
No, for sure. I wouldn't say we were too far off once again. It's sort of like, this is the fun thing about the predictions. Like we had pretty great spot-ons. We had like a really big L, like 2 big L's with Survival and Affliction. And the rest of them were like either like a little bit off, or you know, just like
it's 30 specs, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of specs to look at. But thank you, Patreons, for supporting the content. As always, we really hope you enjoyed these ones. We absolutely love to do these and look in the past, see how wrong or right we were. Check the link in the description, patreon.com/Marcelian_online, and also
thank you for watching the video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye, have a great one.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.